بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعجل فرجه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. Dear sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum. Before starting, I would like to thank all the organizers, everyone involved. They have been working really hard to make this happen. May inshallah give them so much tawfiq and grant them their prayers, inshallah. Let's have a salawat for all the people involved in organizing this event. And also I thank the beautiful recitation. Thank you so much. The atmosphere is very heavy in Farsi. We say "Jav sangine," and of course it's a very important night, but we don't have to be that serious. Inshallah, tonight I try to share some thoughts and opinions which I think can help us benefit more from the nights of Ramadan. And if you would like to raise your opinion or ask a question or anything at any point, please feel free to do so. We have around half an hour, and even though I know probably you're going to be during the lecture thinking, no, your points are so amazing, I have no questions to ask, it's so clear, everything makes sense. But still, if there is anything that you'd like to, I don't know, criticize or whatever, please feel free to do so. I want to begin with an introduction, and that is, what are we meant to do on a night like this? What do you do? Specifically, during the time in which you're on your own. When you're in a collective practice, like listening to a lecture, you know what you're meant to do. You speak to the lecturer till you get bored, then you go on your phone. When they're reciting Joshan Kabir, you listen to the dua with so much enthusiasm, the first few pages, then towards the end you keep checking how many pages are left. We all know what to do. But when you're on your own, what are you meant to do? You know, like imagine there's 15 minutes gap between the two du'as, or towards the end of the night, just before the prayer, you've got half an hour, 20 minutes on your own. What are you meant to do? What do we do? Some people ask for maghfirah, some people decide to read Quran, some people ask God for prayers, and these are all good. But tonight I want to suggest that perhaps we need to do something more, and I know some of you may already be doing that, which is perfect, but I don't think this is one of the things people take seriously during these nights. And I think that is planning. For many of our scholars, when you ask them what is the night of Qadr, what is its value, they say it's a night in which your destiny is written. And one of the translations of Laylatul-Qadr is the night of destiny, right? So how is it that my destiny is written or confirmed on this night? A lot of the times we think we don't really have much to do in this, other than just praying God for all the things we want. Like, God, give me a very good destiny this year, for me, for my children, for my grandparents. It's more, we're putting the burden on God's side, right? In other words, we think that in order to have a good year the next year, because they say the affairs of the next year are going to be decided tonight. And what do we understand from that? That, okay, let's ask God to give us good stuff next year. Now, in my understanding, and this is the understanding of many of our scholars, tonight much of what I say is based on, for example, understanding of Imam Musa Sadr about the night of Qadr. He says, no, this is not the case. If you were only meant to ask God for a good destiny, then why is the night of Qadr towards the end of the month of Ramadan? Because according to Imam Musa Sadr, it seems like God is trying to prepare us for 20 days, 21 days, 22 days, in order to reach a point in which we can have a night of Qadr. Now, you may ask, well, the reason for that is that 20 days, I'm fasting, I become a better person, then when I ask God, I can ask God more sincerely, right? This is usually how we understand it. That I have to become pure, ask God for forgiveness, then when I ask for a good destiny, He will give it to me. Ibn Musa says, no, this is wrong. Part of what Ramadan does to us is makes us more pure, forgives our sin. But there are two other elements which we've forgotten. Right? If you recite the salawat, I'm going to give you and share with you those two elements. Please recite the salawat. Is this one of those lectures that children feel so terrible they came to? I remember when I was a kid, for me the memory of the lectures in the night of Qadr, like I have only two images. Would go to the Masjid Jamkaran in Qom, and I only have two memories. One was they would give hot milk, which was so nice because it was really cold, and back then Jamkaran wasn't as large as it is now. You would sit outside just under a tent or something. So it was so cold, they would give you this milk. That's the only thing I loved about the nights of Qadr. The other thing I remember was how boring it was. And I was like, wow, how can adults do that? Why do they go through this? And I can't believe it. This is us. The kids are saying, I don't know why we're adults going through that. But honestly, that's not my intention, because my understanding is that we can do so much with good intention and yet achieve nothing. So the last thing I want is to be boring. I really want to turn today into a session in which we share our thoughts and we come to a conclusion. So please, at any point you feel like you want to jump in, jump in. Let me recap what I've said so far. I am saying just asking God for a good destiny won't get you anywhere. If you think that Laylatul-Qadr is a night in which, because you fasted for 20 days, 21 days, now you can get to sit down and ask God for all the things you want, my understanding is that it's not going to work. Yes?
As we said,
of course.
Objection, yes?
Yes.
Because there are some verses and hadith that say basically the other way.
Yes.
For example, Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ مَا يَعْبَأُ بِكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ لَوْلَا دُعَاؤُكُمْ. And then he said, and then he said, "Ud'uni astajib lakum." And then there is a verse, there is a hadith says that ad-du'a yaruddu al-qada walau ukrima ibram. That means that dua can even change the qada and the rule,
a fixed destiny.
Even it's written. Walau ukrima ibram.
Beautiful. Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. May God give you whatever you want in Jannah, even though we said prayers are not exactly going to be answered. So the objection, which is very great one, is that you're saying, Shaykh, that prayer alone is not enough. But what about the Quran? Quran says, وَدُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ, or we have that hadith that prayer, like asking God for something, can even change a fixed destiny. Because we know in Islam we have this idea of qaza and qadar, one is fixed, the other one's not. So, our respected brother is saying that dua can even change a fixed destiny. So what are you here saying that, no, there's no point in dua? This is, I think, at the core of what I wanted to say, that in order to understand religion, you need to have a comprehensive outlook, right? For every hadith like that you need to pray, we have so many other ahadith that explain it. Let me give you one hadith. Hadith says, if people don't do amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar, which is to promote what is good and stop what is bad, right? Which is one of the most misunderstood things in Islam. Amr bil ma'ruf, nahy anil munkar. If you don't speak, for example, about oppression, if, for example, someone's ruling over you who's oppressor and you don't speak against it, you're not doing it. The hadith says, if you don't do that, an oppressor will be on top of you. You will be ruled by an oppressor if you don't do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. Now the rest of the hadith is so beautiful. It says, and the good people in the community will pray and their prayer will not be answered. Right? Why? Because basically the Imam is saying, you can't just ask me, for example, for something if you're not putting the hard work in. And this is one of the examples in which the Imam guarantees that good prayer will not be answered. Now sometimes you may think, well, I'm not a good person that my prayer is not answered. In this hadith it says, forget about the bad people. Even the prayer of the good ones won't be accepted. Right? So, this is from the Imam. This is not me. Many verses also we have in the Quran itself. Right? That if things are terrible, for example, in the world, in society, there's oppression, there are people who are going through hunger, poverty, all of which they are really going through it. It's very beautiful. Quran, according to Quran, even good people, even the oppressed people will go to hell or will be responsible. You may be asking, what? Hang on a second. The person who is oppressed will go to hell or will be in the same place as the oppressor? According to the Quran, yes. If you could do something that would stop the oppressor from oppressing you and you didn't do it, you go in the same place. We have this in the Quran in so many verses expressed differently. For example, one of the things it says is this, that only the ones, it says, imagine a society or a world, but for now, our society is the world because everything's so connected. There are some oppressors. Our understanding is that, well, they're going to see the results of their action. But then there are some good ones. Although we usually see ourselves in the good group, which I don't see myself. Our understanding is that, okay, the oppressor is going to see the result, but the good ones will go to heaven. In Quran, there's nowhere such a thing. It says the bad ones and the good ones, they're both going to go. Who's not going to go to hell? Or who's not going to be punished? The one who either, the word is either muslih, does reform, or in a verse, for example, we have يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ السُّوءِ, the one who tries to stop this. Right? And this is very important, and this is at the core of my discussion tonight, and not much is left of it, by the way. So, how are we feeling so far? Does this make sense to you? Is something like relevant to you, or you're like, that's a good point, but why do I care? Or you're just silent, basically. Does it make sense? Like, or are you thinking, how is this relevant to me? Because I'm going to speaking about that now. How is that relevant to me? You want to mention something? No? Perfect. A lovely group of people. How is this relevant to me? It's relevant like this. I don't know at what point we started to accept that just a few acts are enough for our salvation. Right? Because it seems like the religious people right now, they do care about injustice and all of that. But at their heart of heart, All they care about is that they and their family and their relatives go to heaven. How can I show this to you about yourself? I mean, most of us, even myself, see what are the things we desperately ask for tonight. It seems like ultimately, even though we care about people in Yemen and all of that, but at the end of the day, all we care about, or the 90% of what we care about is ourselves. Why? Look at the way we do. We're so careful. Okay, let me read this Quran, let me read all these pages. Why? Because it has sabab. Okay, it has sabab, so what? Well, if I get sabab, it's good for me in heaven. That shows who we are and what we care about. Right? Or, let me do this Josh and Kabir. Why? Because it's one of the amal. So what? Well, it's one of the amals. If I do it, I'll get the sabab. So what? I'll go to heaven. Ultimately, it all comes back to us. You may post on Facebook, for example, that you care about the children in Yemen or other countries, but we show our true nature on a night like this. Right? The things we do, the things we ask for, the way we treat this important night. It's one of the most important nights. We have 8 hours. Most of the things we do is for ourselves or our children. Now, nothing wrong with that. At least someone say, I'm trying to save myself. I'm trying to get sabab. Who said that's wrong? It's really not wrong. Right? But I'm saying, what if one day we realize that salvation or heaven isn't as easy as reading a few du'as? How hard would that be? At some point, I don't know what happened in Muslims' understanding of religion. We started to accept a few acts as enough. This is religion. Who is a religious person? The one who fasts, the one who prays, the one who reads the Quran, goes to Hajj. And everything else was left out of it. Even though when you look at the ahadith, this is not the case. They ask, for example, the Imam, what is religion to you? He said, you know what, if religion has 8 parts, prayer, fasting, Hajj, all of that is one of the 8 parts. Okay, what is the other part? What is the other 7 parts? No one discusses it. Right? Like loving, being forgiving, being caring, having social concern. But I don't know why, even when you tell this to people, they're like, yeah, good point, but still they go back to their same old ways. Right? But my understanding is that that is not religion. Imam himself says religion has 7 other parts. Right? In my understanding, religion has 2 aspects. The individual aspect and the social or community aspect, right? Individual, social. Individual is like what? Like your prayer, your fasting, your reading Quran, your going to Hajj. Community like what? Like caring about the poor, caring about justice in the world, having community ethics, community concerns, right? At some point, they told us this is your relation with God, right? They say relation with God is prayer, fasting. So if you want to get close to God, go pray, go read Quran, go fast. But then, yeah, religion also does recommend a few social acts. But when you look at the Quran, this is not the case. None of them is your relation with God alone. That's your relation with yourself. Oh, so cute. Let's recite salawat for our beautiful Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. God, I wish I was as cute. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. May Allah bless you. Yes, this is a very important point. I know you can't wait to go back to things that I'm trying to tell you perhaps could be done differently, but just hear it from me that we made a mistake to think God can only be found through Quran and fasting and all of that. I'm not saying God is not there. God is there. God is definitely there. But God is also in what you do in society. Right? But unfortunately, all we focus on are those individual acts. And because we don't have that social responsibility, that social concern, even the individual acts we do don't really get us anywhere. Right? Let me show you what I mean by the fact that even our individual acts are not done properly. All of us, we pray. Many of us, I think, we pray. What is the one thing you have to say in every single prayer? Surah Al-Fatiha. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. We say this every day a number of times. Can anyone tell me what does this mean? Yes.
Guide us to the right path.
Guide us to the right path. Okay. What is the right path?
The path that leads us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, yes, the path, perfect. So that's the definition of kind of the right, yeah? But what is it? What is its actual manifest in the world? Others can also help. This is something we all say in the prayer, by the way. When we say, God, guide us to the right path, are we joking with God? Or is this a real prayer? If it's a real prayer, what do we mean by the right path?
Before it says, not the path of the Zalimin, which is like,
and okay.
Explained it before, I think.
Afterwards, okay. So it's saying that God directed to the right path, the path of those an'amta alayhim, you give them blessings, and not the one who are ghayr al-maghzub alayhim, the ones over which you don't have anger and they're not confused. So in another way, it's not really helping us. It's saying this is the right path for those who have been blessed, an'amta alayhim, but then there's another path for those who are confused and God is angry with them. Well, who are these people that God is angry with? Who are these people that are confused? Now, the reason I'm asking you this is because most of us, we think we know what is the right path. It's what I'm doing again. Be a Muslim, pray, fast, Laylatul-Qadr, go, try to listen to the lecture, do a few prayers, go home. This is the right path. Well, if this is the right path, then why do we keep asking God in our prayer to ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim? Exactly, we have to. That's the most honest answer. Because God told us to, but it's not a genuine dua. A lot of people tell me, how can I benefit more from prayer? Saying the only way to benefit more from your prayer is to have a worldview in which one of the main elements of prayer is not a cliche, is not something you just have to say. Right? If we are the kind of Muslim who thinks that the path to salvation is so clear, that doesn't need any guidance, that means that every day in our prayer we're saying something which we don't mean. Because it's a prayer. God, guide me towards the right path. But none of us means it. And what is the hadith about those who say something they don't mean? It says some people pray, and as they pray, the angels will just curse them. Right? This is what I meant that... I'll try to finish this, 5 more minutes. Religion has 2 aspects. Individual aspect and social aspect. Right? Most of what we focus on is the individual aspect. Prayer, fasting, reading Quran. But because this is not part of a larger piece, even when we want to do the individual acts, we don't do them justice. Right? Be honest with yourself, not with me. With yourself. Tonight, at the end of all of the a'mal and everything, it's okay. How much did I enjoy reading the Quran? How much did it speak to me? How much did it change me? And then another question, ask yourself, I've been doing this for how many years? Do I feel, look at your life. Look at your life throughout, for example, 2-3 years. Every year you reach a night of Qadr and you pass it. Do you feel like when you reach the night of Qadr, something happens in your life, your life suddenly goes up? Or when you look back at your life, you feel like your life is just like this. Like the night of Qadr doesn't really change much in you. Because this is what I think happens. For example, Dua Joshan Kabir. The first few lines, what is it we say? Ya Rahman, Ya Kareem. The next line, Ya Ghafir al-Tawbat, Ya Satir al-Khati'at. The one who covers mistakes. The one who forgives as soon as someone wants to apologize. Now, do you really think the way to get close to a God that you're describing like this is to just tell him how amazing he is and then not change, thank you so much? Like how many of us after the night of Qadr try to, for example, become more like these qualities that we read? Satir al-Khati'at. Cover. God is the one who covers mistakes. How many of us try to cover the mistakes of our friends and family? Ghafir, what is it? Acceptor of repentance. How many of us, no matter what someone does to us, as soon as he asks for repentance, we forgive him? Right? Like my partner, my sibling, my child. No matter what they do, as soon as they come and say, I'm sorry, if you really want to follow Joshan Kabir, you have to accept it. You have to say, okay, I accept. This is religion. Right? Why are we not like this? Because at some point, someone told us that just doing a few acts is enough. We forgot, for example, the hadith from Imam Reza, that all of those acts are 1/8 of your religion. And we forgot that even those acts, if you just perform them, won't get us anywhere. You have to see the result. So, please recite the salawat. I'm done. I'll just give a very quick summary of what I said so that you're not confused, because I don't want to create confusion. I think, as I said so many times tonight, religion has two aspects: individual, social. No matter what you want to do in the individual one, if you don't have a social concern, you won't get anywhere, according to the Quran. Once there are social problems, once there is injustice, once there is oppression, even good people will go to hell, according to the Quran. Apart from those who did their best to stop it. Now you can think, how can I stop this? That's a discussion for it. And even in the individual acts, in the individual element of religion, is not the appearance of the act that matters. If you pray, I don't know, 50, 60 years, but someone asks you, why are you saying this line in it? And you say, I really don't know. That means even the individual act we're not doing justice to. Why do we fast? To remember the poor. Then why do we eat like that at iftar? Right? Honestly, some of us think fasting is just not eating for a certain period of time. Why? Because they told us that's enough. Tonight, all I want to say is that these are not enough. There's much more. The individual acts has to lead to a change in you. And how do you know you have that change? Because that change would make it impossible for you not to care about the social aspect of religion. Right? So please tonight try and be real with yourself. And look at in what ways you can make your individual acts and social acts more real and plan for it. Back to where I started. Laylatul-Qadr, it only fix the affairs and your destiny for the next year if you put in the work. Just asking God is beautiful, but it's very minimal. You look at it yourself. Compare your life to the life of your, for example, non-Muslim friends around you. And see, how did this Laylatul-Qadr really change my life? Do you really think if we hadn't done, for example, a few of these acts, our life would have been so different? How can it be really different? If we take it seriously. It will only be the night that changes your destiny if you look at it that way and you put in the hard work. What is the hard work? Accept that religion is very difficult in the sense that the standard is so high. Just doing a few acts won't cut it. Did your prayer make you more humble? Lady Fatima said the purpose for prayer is to get rid of care. The purpose for fasting is to care more about the poor people. Honestly, honest to God, let's ask ourselves, after 21 days, do we care more now or before? Or is it the same? If it's the same, then that means this fasting didn't do its job. So tonight, think about this. How can I make these acts do their job? To benefit more from the act, and what is my role with regards to society? Religion is not just what you do at home. So, if you look at it this way, and understand that you can't tell God, oh God, I did all of this for you, then you would be serious. You would understand how difficult it is to meet God's standard. Because God's standard is that even good people may go to hell if they're not doing their best. If you see the standard this high, tonight when you have 10 minutes on your own, you don't try to add more sabbath, because you already know that doesn't cut it. You try to get real with yourself and see, how can I get closer myself to that standard that God has. And I don't want to take much more of your time. I really pray that God helps us to be real, to understand that we have such limited time in this world. You know, every second we're here is 1 second we have to leave a legacy in this world. You know, like Imam Ali, who we all love, when they ask us what was his legacy, we all remember that he would go every night and take care of the orphans, right? Now the world has become much more complicated and advanced. What does it mean to take care of the orphans now? And it's not just that problem, there are so many problems. What is our legacy in the world going to be? If they ask, what was Shaykh Javad like? He spent 60, 70 years. What did he do? What did he do for the betterment of the world, of people around him, of community? What is our legacy? Tonight we can decide that. What do we want to be known as? After we die, have we reduced one suffering from someone? If you want to live like that, if you want to live a legacy like that, that the world, the angels, God, would look at you like that, tonight is the night to decide. Otherwise, Laylatul-Qadr, there's no Laylatul-Qadr. Laylatul-Qadr happens for those who take it seriously and decide tonight. This is the standard that I have to get to. How should I change myself to act that way? If you make a decision like that, perfect. You have a night of Qadr, you look back, you see the change in your life. Tonight was the night I decided to leave a legacy. Otherwise, tonight is just another night. So, I pray that tonight for us is not just another night. And on that, I leave you with a salawat.